Hello, welcome back to Basics with Jamil Damji and Landry Morby. Excited to kick this new, very introductory approach and opportunity for the community to get back to basics on their wholesaling business. Landry and I have been asking many questions of our audience, and we found out that there's so many people that are still trying to get their first deal. And our goal, our wish, our purpose of doing this is to help as many of you get your first deals as possible. And that means having to really get back and understand some of the basics of the business of wholesaling. Landry, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm more concerned about you, though. I'm like so surprised that you're here. I'm fine. How are you doing, Jamil?
Well, I guess I should probably address the apparatus that's around my neck and coming over my chest. So, for those of you that don't follow me on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, and you're wondering what the heck happened to Jamil, well, I woke up one morning and my entire body was numb. And I ended up pushing through the week in a lot of pain in my neck with numbness all over myself. It was really scary. And it did actually lead me to visiting a doctor towards the end of last week. And at that doctor appointment, my doctor had said I needed to go to the ER. Now, of course, if you know me or your brother or anyone that's like us in that regard, there's not many things that if I have to voluntarily check myself into an ER, there's a good chance I'm not going.
Yeah.
Because an ER is for emergencies, right? Like I should be on the ground writhing in pain, although I was definitely in a lot of pain, but I should not be walking around if I need to be in the ER. But my wife had said, Jamil, this is really important. I need to make sure that you're okay. And so we ended up at the ER. They did an MRI and they determined that I had 98% blockage in my spine. So my vertebrae, one of my vertebrae had dislocated or had become so protruding that it was compressing my spine
Gosh.
to where only 2% of the cerebral spinal fluid was making its way to my brain. And so our bodies need to recycle our cerebral spinal fluid every 24 hours in order for us to be normal, for us to have proper motor function and to have appropriate mental function. And so it was incredible that I was even functioning the way that I was functioning at that
Yeah.
time, given how blocked my spine was. And so the appropriate thing to do was for them to cut me open and do a spinal fusion, another spinal fusion. I'd already had one 15 years ago, but they had to do another one from my cervical spine, C1 all the way, C4 all the way down to C7. And so I am in recovery right now, guys. I'm definitely not out of the woods completely, but I'm doing better. And one thing about me is I am never the guy who uses an excuse, although I have plenty of valid ones for taking some
Yes, you
time
do.
off. This is my purpose. This is my life. And I don't enjoy being idle. I don't enjoy just laying around on my back. So weird, Landry. As I was sitting there in the hospital bed, I actually did two wholesale deals
I
in the
saw.
hospital. Yeah, can you believe
Yes,
that?
I saw. I was watching your whole thing and I'm like, this guy, freaking Jamil.
It was crazy. I made $50,000 from my hospital bed. And then as I
Wow.
was sitting there talking to Bobby about it, I thought, man, I there's really no excuse. There's really no excuse
Right.
to get your business off the ground. There's really no excuse for you to be able to make this a reality for you. And so Landry and I are here. I am as committed as ever to what we are doing here in this incredible business model of wholesale real estate. And we, on the last version of I guess our last episode of Jamil Goes Off Market with Landry Morby, that was the final episode of that show. We announced that we were going to be coming back with this new platform, Batch to Basics, and we were going to be really diving into the ABCs, the one, two, threes of wholesaling. Landry, what are we going to be talking about?
Yeah, I'm excited and just glad that you're doing good. I'm sure everybody here is really grateful to, of course, have you back on here, but just glad that you're recovering well too. But with this new series, I'm really excited too because I think that there's a lot of missing pieces. And you're always talking about it, Jamil, about demystifying the process. And I feel like this is what this series is. It's demystifying all of those things that maybe people don't talk about, and we're going to be talking about picking a market, all of the things that go into picking a market, picking a strategy, what goes into that, what are the pros and cons of acquisitions, dispositions, all of these different things that people just say, go pull a list, call it, and get a deal done. And it's like, what about the other stuff?
Right.
So that's what we're talking about today. I'm looking forward to it.
Incredible. And you're so right, Landry. We do, especially for people in my position or more experienced wholesalers, especially when we sometimes are addressing our audience. We forget that, like, people don't know what skip tracing is.
Right.
We forget that people don't know or have an idea about what market they should be working in. We have people that tune in from virtual areas, or even overseas, different countries. I mean, I've got people that tune in from Canada, people that tune in
Yeah.
from Africa, people that tune
Oh,
in from
really?
India. Yeah, and
Ooh.
so they're all wondering, can I do this virtually? And if I can do it virtually, how do I choose a market? Right? All of these things are super important. So we want to turn this over to the audience for a quick minute, because we would love to get your opinions on some of these topics that we are going to be covering. How many of you in the chat right now have already chosen a market to work in? If you've chosen a market to work in, then do me a favor and write the market that you're working in the chat. So just let us know what market you're working in the chat, so we are aware that you are in a market already.
Okay.
Awesome. We got some Arizona, Utah, DFW, Tampa, LA, Houston. Awesome. Wow, look at Corey. Corey's in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia.
Heck yeah.
Amazing. Houston, Texas, beautiful. Tampa, but thinking of changing. I don't know why you'd want to change, Terry. Tampa is a phenomenal market, but maybe you've got your reasons. Linnell says Philadelphia. Yes, Philly is great. Ohio, Chicago, Atlanta, DFW. Amazing. So we've got some really, really good markets that people are choosing. We're going to talk about what some of the factors you should be looking at when you are choosing a market, because one of the most prevalent questions I get from people, especially for folks who are maybe living in smaller areas or more rural areas, is, Jamil, what if I live in a market, or what if I'm near a market that doesn't have, a huge population? What should I do then? Should I choose a different strategy? Should I choose a different market? Should I really go deep into this market and become like the best wholesaler in the little area that I'm in? And those are all valid questions, right? And so we're going to talk about some of that. I also just want to see how many of you have yet to choose a market. So if you haven't yet chosen a market, then just do me a favor and put 2 question marks in the chat. If you haven't chosen a market yet, do us a favor and put 2 question marks in the chat, because I just want to see how many of us tuning in right now have still not decided what market we're working in and are open to thinking about and making that decision. And we're going to help you guys make that decision today. So we've got a few. Awesome. So Albert still has not chosen his market, which is awesome. Ashley, the ultimate duo. I wonder who the ultimate duo is.
Oh.
Mary Miller, C. Lee, Alyssa. Awesome. Galaxy Big Bird said, in the Las Vegas market today, better or worse than, is the Las Vegas market better or worse today than last year? Great question. I would say that the market in Las Vegas is definitely different than it was last year. Last year, we had a completely different inventory situation. We had different interest rates. And so I would say the market last year was a little better in terms of volume, of course, right? Rates were lower and there was still adequate inventory. And so people were rushing into the market trying to do business. But we did definitely see some market constriction. And we've seen, oddly enough, especially in markets like Vegas, which mirrored Phoenix, very, very closely. There were times where last year or this year, sorry, in 2020 in 2023, there were times in the year where we went from a buyer's market to a seller's market, back to a buyer's market, then back to a seller's market, and now we're back in a buyer's market again.
Oh,
And you might
dang, really flip-flopping.
I know it's major flip-flopping, and you might be wondering, like, why is it happening? Well, the fact is, guys, is when the Fed was doing what they're doing with interest rates, the mortgage industry itself, they are raising rates as well. And even
Yeah.
though the Fed didn't raise their rates, the mortgage industry had raised their rates to an industry high. Actually, it was like a 20-year high, not an industry high, a 20-year high. And people pumped the brakes again. So a little while ago, we saw that with mortgage rates increasing somewhere near towards 8% in some cases,
Wow, oh my gosh.
we saw that there were people taking a pause, saying they weren't going to jump in right now. They were going to wait to see if the market was going to change or if there was going to be any big adjustments happening. And so people were waiting on the sidelines. And so we are back in a buyer's market right now. But I just was looking at the headlines today, and it so happens that the mortgage industry has taken one of their largest plunges since the big spike in interest rates happened, and
Really?
rates are starting to come back down again. So I wonder if coming into the holidays, we're going to see an increase in buyer activity. We still don't know what the effects will be of mortgage rates starting to decrease and what that's going to cause in the market. But they have preliminarily said that mortgage applications started spiking almost immediately. So we could find ourselves back in a seller's market coming into the holiday season just again. So guys, super important right now for you to be paying attention to what's going on regionally, because we no longer have a national housing market. We've got what's called a regional housing market, meaning it's different everywhere. You can't look at what's going on in Los Angeles and say it's going to be the same in Phoenix. You can't look at what's going on in Phoenix and say the same thing's going on in Albuquerque, New Mexico. You can't look at what's going on in Albuquerque, New Mexico and say that that's happening in Dallas, Fort Worth. It's different everywhere. So it's really important that you pay attention to stats, the statistics in your specific market. And you can always find statistics like that on websites like Redfin. You can find statistics like that on websites like Zillow. You can Google and just find out where your market is right now. So again, very important that you're constantly staying in front of and on top of market trends, seeing where mortgage applications are so that you can forecast where activity is going to be. Landree, we have some parameters that you and I had discussed offline on certain things that people should be looking at when choosing a market. What are some of those things that we had discussed?
We talked about, the population. We talked about migration as well, just in general, like where are people going? We talked about investor activity, like is that a desirable area, to investors? Is that somewhere where you should be considering investing in as well? And I would say that those are some of the biggest ones to be paying attention to when choosing the market. Of course, with those other stats too, which I think is really important for people to be paying attention to.
Absolutely. So to get to the chat right now, real quick, Cam, yes, we will be taking some questions towards the end of today's stream. So by all means, put your questions in and we'll do our best to get to them before the stream is over. Thank you so much for tuning in. But yeah, Landree, great points there, right? So migration trends. So this is something I want everybody to pay attention to, because especially after the pandemic, right? When we started to see all the different migration patterns that happened during 2020, and that's essentially what caused these huge swings in the real estate market in general, where we had population migration from larger markets like Los Angeles and New York, and they were moving to places like Phoenix, Arizona, to the Sun Belt,
Yeah.
to Florida. So many people came out of New York, New Jersey, and found their way to Florida. And those migration patterns absolutely changed real estate, changed inventory, and changed the level of activity of these specific migration positive markets. So there's 3 M's I want you to pay attention to, okay? Because this is what is really important when we're looking at a market. The first, again, guys, is migration trends. The second is the money, right? Because when we're looking at where activity is happening, you got to be looking at what is the cost of money. And so interest rates are absolutely going to be affecting what a market's activity is going to be looking like. And then lastly, millennials. So it was migration, money, and millennials. Those were the 3 M's that caused the huge spike in real estate activity in 2021, 2022. And so we still need to be looking at those patterns to forecast what's going to be happening 2023. So yes, migration trends, money in terms of interest rates, and millennials, because millennials right now, they are the ones driving the housing market. Many millennials are forming new households. They are making a tremendous amount of money in their current positions and jobs, and they're becoming ready to become homeowners. And so what millennials are doing is very important. So migration, money, and millennials, all very important factors in determining what would make a good market. And yes, of course, even looking at that, we would like to open it up to see how we should be doing some of this research. So Landree, let's pretend you and I don't have a favorite market, because we've got all these folks in the chat right now. People like, who was it here that had said that they had not yet? Justin and Elisa, Marie, Ashley, Albert. These are people who have not yet chosen a market. So let's do a little bit of research, if you will.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's find out the migration pattern of, because we had somebody say earlier that Tampa, Florida is a market that they're working in, but they may want to leave the Tampa market. So,
okay. Yeah.
Let's do some research and Google what are the migration trends in Tampa, Florida in 2023 going into 2024. And we'll see if we have positive migration. Positive migration is what we're looking for.
This is such a simple thing, but just something to think about, or food for thought for the group, is sometimes I've noticed anyway, I don't know if everybody else feels the same, but sometimes we don't Google certain things.
Oh my
God.
God.
You could legit just type out the question like, what should I do? And it will just, like, not obviously with everything, but same thing with like the median sale price, like we were talking about on previous things. You can just have an idea with sometimes just Googling it, or what does something mean? So sometimes we forget about this, all of this.
I mean, I don't know how anybody forgets that, because like, to me, it's super obvious, but even then, sometimes I've asked some pretty bonehead questions to even my team before, where, you know, Yvette will be looking at me like, duh, don't you have Google? So like
I thought,
what an easy tool, what an incredible thing we have at our fingertips. So let's look at the 2023 migration pattern report, and let's see what's happening in Tampa, Florida, if we can.
Let's see if it will. Hold on. I don't know if it is. Read the white paper. Okay.
So interesting. They're going to give you 100 things to buy sometimes before they'll give you the information you're looking for. But I'm looking for the net migration percentage into Tampa in 2023. Oh, there's a map. Maybe we can pull it in from there.
Okay. Consistent across U.S. Continued shift towards states, lower household income. Okay.
Now, can you, on that map, are you able to see?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. If you go to Florida. What does that say?
Okay, so there we go. I see the date range now. Okay, so up to 2022. This is just 2023 right now.
So
So
let's
this
look at
just goes
Florida
beginning.
between 2020 and 2022. Let's see where it was.
Okay. It was at 0.85.
0.85% positive migration. Is that correct?
Yes, I think the darker it is, the higher in percentage.
Awesome. And then what is it looking like now?
1.22%.
Got it. So it's still, in fact, increased migration to the area over the year. And so there's still massive migration happening in Florida. And one of the major markets in Florida is Tampa. So I'd almost go as far as to say that you're going to find that same net positive migration in Tampa. So we've checked one box. We have positive net migration. We know that the population is growing. We know that that population is coming from somewhere, and very likely coming from a very expensive market like New York. So guess what they're bringing with them?
Money.
Lots of money, right? And so what other question does this solve of ours, which is the second M, which is money? Let me ask the audience this question and see if we can get some interesting answers here. If we're looking at being able to sell your house in New York City for, say, $1 million or more. Actually, let's test this. Landry, can you Google what the median household price or the median housing price for New York City is?
It is. Yeah, there we go. About 800,000.
Okay, so think about this, guys. You're leaving a market like New York, and you've got $800,000 in your pocket or in your bank account, let's just say, because I don't know if you can really walk around with 800 grand in your pocket, but you got 800 grand in the bank, right? And you are looking to move to Tampa, Florida. Will interest rates stop you from making a purchase if you're coming with that much cash?
Probably not.
Absolutely, right? And that's what we saw happen. It's what we're still continuing to see happen in these markets like Florida and Arizona, where you've got people coming from California and New York with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in equity that they've had from selling their homes where they lived in. And they're able to come into these markets and buy homes for cash. And because they're buying homes for cash, guess what they're not looking at? Interest rates.
The interest rate, yes.
Exactly. So they're coming in and they're making big purchases. They're putting down 100% or they're putting down 50% financing. And so they're buying their rate down. They're getting incredible interest rates for the time. And it's not as important to them as maybe interest rates were, say, in 2022, 2021. So
Yeah.
again, really interesting to look at. Look, Mibaraka said the Californians and New Yorkers laugh at interest rates when they move to Arizona. I absolutely agree with you because they have no need to care about interest rates. In fact, they can take the millions of dollars that they have in their bank accounts from selling their properties, and they can come in and make aggressive offers in places like Arizona, in places like Florida, because they have all that cash available. And if they're able to make aggressive offers, they're getting all kinds of seller concessions. They're getting to name their terms. They're getting to name the repairs. They're getting so much. They're getting so much bang for their buck because they're coming in a good time, right? It's a good time for them to come and bring cash offers to the table because people are having a hard time qualifying.
Yeah.
Vanessa Garcia says it happens in submarkets as well. Techies in California moving with cash to northern areas with cash offers. I absolutely agree with you, Vanessa. It is definitely happening in other submarkets as well. Fantastic points.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that, especially when you look up, and then I looked up the median sale price in Tampa, which is closer to 460,000. So it's like if you think about somewhere like that with that example that we're going over with New York, like that's, huge difference there.
Lisa Aguirre in the chat says she actually looked it up right now and she found an even bigger stat for net migration to Tampa. She has a positive 2.8%. Incredible. Wow. Yeah. I absolutely believe that, Lisa. I've been watching what's happening in our wholesale business in Florida, Tampa specifically. We have had so much business. We've made so much money in this last year in Tampa with the way that housing has been going. There's just absolutely no shortage of demand, and it has almost everything to do with that really positive net migration to the market. So, great point there. Thank you for helping us with the correction of that stat. So, now that we understand and we have an idea of the market that we want to pick and we know what factors we need to look at when we're selecting these markets, the next thing we want to start thinking about is what our strategy is going to be, right? And you might be thinking about, well, what are you talking about, Jamil? What do you mean what our strategy is going to be? Our strategy is wholesale. Well, yeah, it's wholesale, but there is a lot of components when you're talking about wholesaling. So I'm going to break down what those components are. When you're wholesaling, you typically look at the structure of a deal. When you're looking at the structure of a deal, there is acquisitions and dispositions, right? Now, in acquisitions, you can even take acquisitions and you can further divide it into different strategies. You can
Mm-hmm.
look at acquisitions and you can say, I'm acquiring direct to seller, I'm acquiring direct to agent, I'm acquiring doing offers on the MLS, I'm acquiring creative finance deals. So maybe you're calling canceled and expired listings or no equity deals and seeing if sellers are interested in letting you take over their property subject to. So there's so many different ways to do acquisitions, and there's different ways to do dispositions as well. You could be a dispositions wholesaler where your primary business model is helping other wholesalers sell their deals. That's
Mm-hmm.
primarily what we at Keegley became famous for, just our ability to sell deals at a much higher price point than others could because of how large our list is and how deep our relationships are with different types of buyers. So not only is that one form of dispositions, but you might just say, hey, I'm going to be a dispo. You could be a dispo wholesaler, but you could also be a blended hybrid AC and disposition wholesaler where you are bringing in your own deals and selling your own deals. And so there's so many different ways that you can look at this concept of dispo. Now, in dispo, you could also be wholesaling, you could be fixing and flipping, you could be buying and holding, you could be holding for creative or holding for cash flow, you could be doing midterm rentals, short-term rentals. There's still so many exits to look at when we're talking about this all, right? And so again, we really want everybody to understand this business is got not only multifaceted components to it, but within those components are more components,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I want to take a poll of the audience again, and I want to ask if any of us have made a decision on whether or not we're an acquisition wholesaler or a disposition wholesaler. If you're an acquisition wholesaler, do me a favor and just write in the chat AQ. If you're an acquisition wholesaler, write AQ. And if you are a disposition wholesaler, write DP. So if you're an acquisition wholesaler, write AQ. If you're a disposition wholesaler, write DP. I want to see if our audience has made a distinction, whether they are AC or dispo. We've got a lot of acquisitions people in here. Wow, a lot of AC guys, a lot of AC people. Ryan is a blended hybrid, so he's selling a lot of his own deals. Awesome. Samuel Turner is a disposition wholesaler. Me Baraka is a disposition wholesaler. We got a lot of AC people in here, and this makes sense. This makes a lot of sense because what would make somebody be an acquisition wholesaler over a disposition wholesaler? Well, first and foremost, it's quite expensive to be able to sit and just build lists, right?
Yeah.
If you're just sitting there and mining data and talking to potential buyers and building lists, it's going to be quite time consuming and it can be quite expensive to do that. Also, being a disposition wholesaler means that you still need to have an extensive network of acquisition wholesalers so you have deals available to be able to sell. So it makes sense that there's a lot of people here that are acquisition wholesalers. Now, for all of you that are acquisition wholesalers, I want to take this one more level. If you're an acquisition wholesaler, tell me what type of acquisitions you're doing. If you're doing direct to seller, please write DTS. If you are doing direct to agent, write DTA. If you are doing MLS, just write MLS. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, I'm
So
curious about this
interesting.
one. Yeah, I love to see this. Okay, direct to agent.
Direct to agent, awesome. Sandra, direct to agent, MLS. Valerie's direct to agent as well as direct to seller.
Love
Cam
it.
is both as well, direct to agent and direct to seller. Amazing. Justin is doing direct to agent and MLS, direct to agent and direct to seller. Awesome. Cam is mainly doing agent, he says. Okay. Really cool.
I love to see the people doing both. I don't know. I love when, just broadening that and adding as many different things as you can, as you kind of go down in your own journey, of course.
Great question that Lisa asked. She says, why does it seem that most are one or the other and not both or blended? Really great question, Lisa, and I'll answer that. Well, I believe the reason for it is because it's really difficult to be a master of all trades, right? I think that when you're at least getting started in wholesaling, it makes sense that you focus on one modality to start with, because most of us getting into wholesale are starting as a side hustle, meaning we've typically got a W-2 job that helps us pay our bills 9 to 5. And we learn about wholesale from YouTube, or we learn about wholesale from somewhere on the internet, or somebody tells us about it. And then all of a sudden we want to learn about it and we start getting involved. But if you've got a full-time job, it's really difficult for you to focus and build everything up, right? One of my favorite things to tell people that are first getting involved in wholesale is that they should really focus in on one thing and become very, very good at it.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're going direct to seller, I think it's really important that you do direct to seller and that you get focused on direct to seller so that you become incredibly good. If you're doing direct to agent, again, being highly, highly, highly specialized in direct to agent so that you become incredibly talented at having those conversations and building those relationships. If you're doing MLS offers, the same thing. You need to become highly specialized, and you need to be able to do this at such a insanely high degree, high level, that people count on you. People know you for being that person in that market for that thing, right?
Yes.
Let's just use me for an example again. I became known in Arizona as the go-to guy if you have a wholesale deal. So many acquisition wholesalers, as well as real estate agents, they had heard about me, and they had heard this Jamil guy. He apparently is really good at selling deals, or he always closes, he always performs, is what a lot of agents would say about me to other agents. And so I had this reputation around town of being somebody that was serious, somebody that could perform and that wouldn't leave somebody hanging. I wouldn't let wholesale deals kind of die on the vine. I always figured out a way to close. And so I became known as a reliable person to work with. I may not give you the best price always if I'm buying from you, but I will give you a sure thing. Right. And a lot of times people will bet on a sure thing, then they will, hey, try to get an additional couple $1,000s out of a deal, but then have to worry about whether or not it was going to close. So for me, being reliable, being a sure thing always served me. Always served me.
Awesome. That's really good advice for people getting started. It's like, just focus on that one thing. I think that's in much every different part of our lives as well. It's like, you can't, when you start to be like the jack of all trades, but you haven't got to focus in yet on each of those things individually, then some of those things can suffer. It's just kind of how it is, because you're spreading yourself so thin. So
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. Now, Landree, you have a good opportunity to talk to so many people within the batch community. What have you found is people's main specialization in this when you're polling community members in the batch Discord?
I have also noticed that most people are acquisitions in there within the group. And a lot of people I've noticed more coming into direct to agent or agent outreach and kind of branching out into that. But most that I run into are acquisitions focused on direct to seller that I'm familiar with so far, which it's been pretty interesting though for me to see it switch around, or certain times in certain groups and different trainings that sometimes the majority will switch over to a different kind of group. But yeah, pretty
Absolutely.
interesting to see.
Funny enough, if we can put Lisa's comment on here up on the screen, because I think she makes a really, really good point. Lisa says she completely agrees about being stretched too thin and accomplishing little. My goodness, have you guys ever? Okay, how many of us had a dad growing up that would do things around the house? Not so much you.
Not so much. No.
Okay, well, okay. I'll be honest. My dad also was not that guy. Okay, my dad is about as handy with a hammer as I am, and so just
Oh, like that kind of things around
yeah,
the house?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. That stuff he would do. Yeah.
Okay, so you have a dad that would do a lot of stuff around the house, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so do you ever notice how if mom had him asked him to do, hey, would you fix this in the garage? Can you help me? There's a leaky faucet in the
Oh, yeah.
bathroom. Can you repave the driveway? And can you give us some new laminate flooring in the house? If you come back and look maybe 6 months or a year later, there's like 7 different projects started and none of them are finished.
Yep.
I'm not saying specifically your dad, because I do know your dad finishes a lot of what he starts, because
Yeah,
let's
but
put,
I know,
let's
I mean,
be
that's
real.
how
He's
my
he's a
house is right
Morby.
now.
So
Yeah.
okay, so it's happening in your house right
Yeah, I
now,
don't
right?
even have the quarter round down on because I replaced all of my baseboards. I haven't even finished the quarter round because I've already started other projects. So yeah, I get that.
So interesting, right? That
Yeah.
when you are of the mindset that you're going to do a bunch of different things, what ends up happening is you just build up little piles of everything. And when you
Yes.
build up little piles of everything, you actually don't accomplish anything, because
No.
you get a little bit far in one thing, and then you get distracted and you move on to the next activity. You build up a little bit of that, and then you get distracted and you move on to the next activity, and so on and so forth. And there you have it. You just get a whole bunch of nothing, right?
Yeah.
So I really highly suggest that everybody watching right now make a decision, draw a line in the sand, make a choice, decide if you're acquisitions or if you're dispositions. And if you are acquisitions, then you need to make a determination if you're going direct to seller, direct to agent, or MLS. I think you can blend MLS and direct to agent together because they're
Yeah.
very similar. But I think if you're going direct to seller, I think you should just go direct to seller. I think if you're going direct to agent, I think you should just go direct to agent. I think that you should become really good at one thing before you start doing another thing, right? And so to me, really honing in on your skills, sharpening your skills, and becoming a master at one thing will make you the best at that. And then you can leverage other people who are the best at other aspects of the business. And then you'll see that your business will actually go, like, it'll flourish. And that was something that your brother and I did really well, Landree, is
Yeah.
your brother is one of those guys that really talented at getting in front of a seller, building rapport, solving a problem, getting a deal under contract, and bringing the contract home. But guess what your brother is not so good at?
What?
Comps. He
Oh,
doesn't
yep.
like it.
Yeah, exactly right.
He,
Yeah.
he doesn't he doesn't like it. Okay. He even to this day, he'll tell everybody that asks him if Pace Morby has a deal that he needs to have comped, he just sends it to me. He's like, I'm
Yep.
gonna let this guy do it because he's better at it than me, and he's gonna give me an answer in 30 seconds, and I know that answer is gonna be correct, right? So
Right.
again, just one of those things that he doesn't have to specialize in because I have, right? So
Yeah.
the fact is because I was so good at comping, because I'm so good at understanding value, what did I start attracting to myself? People started coming to me for buying numbers for every one of their deals, which made me the go-to guy to
Yes.
JV with, right? So just specializing on being able to comp well, created an entire brand for me. It created an entire business model for me. You see how powerful really specializing in one thing can be for you? Now, look at your brother. Your brother being so good at talking to sellers that he built an entire brand out of being so good at talking to sellers. He's not only so good at talking to sellers, he's incredibly talented at talking sellers into giving you their houses and their loans.
Yeah.
Right. So he's taught thousands of people to be able to do that as well, because he specializes. He
Right.
specializes in one thing. Right.
It's
And
so
so
true. With like, if you think about a team, in a team, everybody's not doing the same thing. Somebody has something else to contribute. You turn to that one guy because he specializes in another area, and the other person on the team can help you better with this certain area. I see that a lot in even people in my personal life, that I'm like, I know you want to do everything, but it's like, think about how somebody else can come to the table, take that off of your plate that you're maybe even not so good at it. And then you can focus on the things that you are good at and passionate about too, which I think is so
absolutely,
cool to remember with
absolutely.
this.
Right. Like I 100% agree. So now that we've kind of determined, okay, we understand, we've done some market research, we know what the migration patterns are, we understand where the money's coming from, we understand the age group of the people that are there, we
Mm-hmm.
know where the activity is going, and now we've made a determination on how we want to approach the business, right? We've decided we're acquisitions or we're dispositions, and then within acquisitions, we made a determination on how we're going to be going about getting our deals. Now, the beautiful thing about the batch platform, guys, is that you can both go direct to seller and direct to agent using batch leads, right? So you
Yes.
don't have to go to different platforms to be able to specialize in acquisitions in with using batch. You can go both ways, right? You can go both um, uh, direct to seller and direct to agent. So if you could, Landry, show us how that's structured in the batch platform for those who have yet to open it up and see what it's all about.
Yeah, I definitely will break this down. And also, I feel like this is so fitting for how we've rebranded the show of Batch to Basics, of course. But what I think is so fitting about it is that it doesn't have to be complicated with having, a different, maybe different thing that you look at for every piece of information you're trying to obtain. You can pull these lists of direct to seller, or go and talk to agents, or pull on or off market. So I feel like it's so nice to be like, oh, what am I going to do? This is what I choose, and I'm just going to go click on it in the same page. I don't know. I think that's pretty nice and just simplistic. But basically, and we can pull up too, we'll kind of look at Tampa like we've been talking about today, to be able to like pull up some buyers. But let's just say like property search, essentially what this page is just a place where you can pull, if anybody is like brand spanking new, what you hear a lot is pull a list. I know that I've run into people and they're like, what does that mean?
Right.
Like that's another one of those things we say so often, but it's literally just a list of addresses after you've applied some filters. Are they listed on the market? Are they off market and they've been owned a really long time? Have they defaulted on their taxes? Is there property in pre-foreclosure currently? Have they owned it for 10 plus years? Do they have high or low equity? Like all of these little things that allow you to start pulling that list. Like, let's just say that we're looking for, properties that are off market. We applied these or got these filters in here a couple of weeks ago, where you can just click a button and it brings up some of, I guess some of those foundational or commonly used things when finding those off-market opportunities, and you can adjust them. So maybe I don't like that the system has a minimum of just a year, and maybe I want them to be owned for 10 plus years or 7 plus years or whatever. You can start to, like we've talked about in previous episodes, every filter is like adding to that picture that you're painting and the list of people you're pulling.
Interestingly enough, I just got a text message from an Astro community member who is partnering with a sub 2 community member. So
Okay, heck yeah.
we got a little marriage here between Astro and sub 2, and they're going to be going after creative low equity deals. And I promised that I was going to show her exactly how to find that type of person. So
Perfect.
Landry, right? What would be some of the characteristics that would tell us that there's no equity in a deal if we're looking for that kind of property right now? Any ideas?
Well, are you talking about like pulling it up in here?
Yeah, like what
Yeah.
would What kind of list do you think would be a potential good creative sub 2 list?
I would say pre-foreclosure would be great.
Yep,
Um,
pre-foreclosure. Also,
I would say tax default is good.
tax default. But I think one of my favorites would be because if we're thinking about sub 2, right?
Mhm.
When were the majority of the really good loans originated? I'm talking the 2, 3, 4% loans. When were they?
Was that like
Mainly originated?
20? What 2021?
2020 all the
2020.
way to 2020, like 2022. So I'd
Yeah.
even be going as far back as 2019 to like 2022. Okay. I would be looking at, uh, yeah, so 2019 to 2022.
Okay, wait, that they bought
And
the
I'd be
property?
correct. And I'd be
Okay.
looking for, Ryan says 2021. I think Ryan's actually correct. Because 2022 is when things started to go a little bit wonky. So
Mhm.
let's actually cut 22 out of the picture. Let's say
Okay.
2019 to 2021, and then let's look for no equity. Can we look for no equity 2019 to 2021?
Yes. Okay, 1, 2, 2020. 1, 0, 1, 12, 31. Don't give up on me. 2021. So the end of 2021, yes?
Yes.
Cool. Let's take this high equity off of here. And what would you say for low equity? Like, would it be even less than 10% as the max, or what would you usually
Yeah,
put?
I would say 10% is the maximum equity for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got. Let's take this off. We don't care about that. There
Has
we go.
batch is batch starting to have any of the canceled and expired listings as well?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Guys, if
Yeah,
you're
we
doing
have them.
creative finance, if you don't have batch and you're doing creative finance, you're like messing up. By the way, guys, if you go to batchleads.io/Jamil and you use the code BASICS, that's BASICS, 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 I said C, BASICS, forgive my dyslexia, BASICS, not back six. You're going to get 50% off your first month as a thank you for watching the show and also taking action. So again, go to batchleads.io/Jamil for 50% off. That discount won't last forever. So make sure you take advantage of it while they are being generous. It is the holidays and they are generous right now. So take your 50% off and be happy about that. All right. So we've got low equity
We
bought
left it on
2019
single
to 2021.
family.
Let's do it in
You
DFW.
know what?
Let's
I'm going to take
because
that off too.
I know that my community member is in Dallas.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Let's do it in DFW. I just want her to see how many leads she'd be able to call from what you guys would have available.
Okay. So with this, we just have residential single family right now, off market. Last sale date was anywhere between that time period and has less than 10% equity. And there's a little over 1,100.
1,100 records to call. Beautiful. So Hade, if you have tuned in, that's your list, girl. That is your list. Now, on top of that, I would be looking at canceled and expireds.
Mm-hmm.
So let's first pull up expired listings, and I'm going to explain why, if you are doing creative finance, why expired listings are so powerful.
Okay.
So how would you pull up expired listings in DFW?
Either this way or down here. Now that we've changed some things, I'm like, what is the way that I like? But it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. But okay, so now we narrowed it down to much smaller, but there's 13 that are coming up with that.
So sorry, one more time. You have 13 canceled or 13 expired, and that's just for the day, or for the month?
This is from that time period that's getting pulled up. So maybe I'll take off some of my filters as well.
Yeah, let's remove all those filters and let's just see all of the expired listings for the month.
Okay, gotcha.
The most
Okay,
fresh
perfect.
expired listings in DFW right now.
2,300.
2,300.
Let's do for the last month. I forgot about that. Let's do price. Expired in, it's harder with like expired on in a time frame. That's what it is. I want to do the listing price. Sometimes, playing around with this stuff and thinking outside of the box to get the best ones on there. So let me do listing date.
The reason why, as she's pulling this up, guys, I'm going to explain why expired listings are so powerful for creative finance. Well, here's the thing, right? An expired listing means that this seller had a real estate agent that was unsuccessful in selling their property. Now, there could have been a couple of reasons why. It expired because the seller was too bullheaded and would not reduce their price. It could have been where a listing agent completely bullcrapped their seller and lied to their seller about what they thought they could sell the property for. So they set an unrealistic expectation of price. It could also be that this seller owes more on the property than what the property is actually listed at. And that right there, you know what, Landree? Now that we've said that, let's see what was expired that had been bought between 2019 and 2021. Can you pull that up?
Okay, so the last sale date in between 2020 to 2021?
2019 to 2021.
Okay, let's do that.
Yes, expired listings can also be great wholesale deals as well, Cam. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, they can. In fact, there's a video that I did with Monique Walker on my YouTube where we're calling canceled and expired for the entire video. You should go watch that. It's on my YouTube channel. Don't do it right now because let us finish here. But it's a phenomenal video if you're wanting to listen to some of the scripting on what to say when you're calling canceled and expired listings. How many come up in DFW right now?
445.
Okay, guys, look at this. 445 potential houses, okay, that have a low interest rate on them, okay? This interest rate on this house is going to be either 2, 3, 4%. 2, 3, or 4%. So, Cam, this wouldn't be a good wholesale list to call, not for cash offers, okay?
Right.
This would not be a good list to call for cash offers. Why? Because these guys have no equity. They have no equity. In fact, the pitch on this would be so easy for creative. It would be so easy for creative because these guys were unsuccessful on selling their property. And a good reason why, I bet, was because they owed too much and the house wasn't in top retail condition. So the buyers weren't interested in taking the house because it needed a little bit of work, but didn't need a full remodel. It's just a little bit dated. There's not enough equity in the deal, so they had to price the house too high, and it expired. And I bet you that agent has no clue about how to do creative finance. So if I was Hade, who had messaged me about this, I would take that list that she just pulled right now. I would call every single one of these people. I would skip trace that list at batch. I would call every one of these homeowners. I wouldn't even call the agent. I'd call the homeowner. And I would ask the homeowner, I would say, listen, I noticed that you had just that your listing expired on your property that you had available to sell. I did a little bit of research on the property, and it seems as though your property was listed a little bit too high for the market. And I think that's because of how much you owe. What if
Mm-hmm.
I was able to buy that property and just take that mortgage right off your hands, and you could move on with your life and move into a different property? And if I was even able to put some cash in your pocket, would we be able to do a deal together and help you get this house sold? I'm telling you, that list would be so powerful. We've got to call that list, actually. Landree,
Okay.
we need
Okay.
to
Yeah.
call that list, because I think that there's such a huge opportunity in calling for creative that the next time we're on this, we're actually, when's our next episode, Landry?
I think it's the 30th, because isn't the one, because it was supposed to be Thanksgiving. And then
Right.
I think that's it. Yeah. So we're moving it. So it's going to be in 3 weeks.
Okay, guys, mark your calendars, because Landry, Morby, and I are going to be back in 3 weeks, and we're going to be calling this list Pitching Creative. It's something I don't even typically do.
Oh, there you go. See?
But let's do it. Who
Okay.
wants to see me pitch creative? If you want to see me pitch creative, put right in the chat sub 2. If you want to see me pitch creative, write in the chat sub 2.
I think that would be awesome. I think that's what's so cool about this too, to show the power of like, okay, can we do this, that, or the other, and just make those little adjustments? Okay, that's, that's not the number we want. So why don't we make an adjustment with this filter, this, that, or the other? I don't know. I think that's the power in tools like this.
Amazing. All right, guys, you're going to get it. I'm going to do it. Okay, November 30th,
Only
I'm going to
Pace
be
comes.
Yeah. That'll be great. We'll see if Pace will come in and make fun of me while I'm doing these. November 30th, Jamil pitches creative. I'm just like falling out of my chair over here. I think it's going to be a phenomenal day. But this is what we're doing, guys. We're getting back to basics. We're going to show you guys step by step how to find a list, how to pick a market, how to pick a niche, and then go after it, right? So today we went over understanding, first and foremost, deciding what market you're going to be in. Then we looked at making a decision on whether you're going to be acquisitions or dispositions. And if you're going to be acquisitions, what type of acquisitions you're doing. Today, we have determined that the next time we're on this, we're going to be doing creative finance acquisitions. So you're going to be watching me for an entire hour pitch creative terms to these homeowners that had expired listings for properties they bought between 2019 and 2021. So Landry, if you would have that list pulled closer to the day, though, actually, because I want it to be super fresh when we call.
Okay.
Because these expireds, they happen every single day, so I want to get the super fresh expired listings. But this is what we're going to be doing our next episode, and every other week after that, guys, we're going to be going back to another basic. We're going to be picking another market. We're going to be picking another list, and we're going to be then showing you the following week how to pitch that type of deal. This is how Landry, myself, and Batch believe we're going to help hundreds, if not thousands of you guys get your butts across the line to success, to getting your first and many, many more deals done after that. It's our promise to you to continue bringing you guys value, to continue bringing you not only advanced lessons in this business, but really showing you how, if you're brand new at this, if you're tuning in for the first time ever, how you can do this business with very little money and just a little bit of effort on your part. Again, guys, do me a favor. Get to batchleads.io/Jamil. Use code BASICS for 50% off your first month. And for everybody that takes action and does it this week between now and our next episode, Landry, what should we give them?
I
What
think
should
we
give
should
away?
maybe show, I've been thinking maybe we should show somebody how they can pick a market, and maybe like walk them through on the show.
I love it. Okay. Who wants to be a guest on Batch to Basics, where we actually will do it all for you? We'll help you pick your market. We'll help you pick your whichever modality or whichever
find cash buyers,
whatever your strategy is going to be. We're going to pull the list for you, and we'll pay for your list. We'll pay for your list as well. But you have to be a Batch client. So the only way, and we're going to bring you up, we're going to email you a StreamYard link. So you're going to be our co-host. You're going to be our co-host for one of these episodes. Now, guys, you have to be a batch client in order to be considered. So between now and November 30th, make sure you go to batchleads.io/Jamil, enter code BASICS, and we
then
will
email me.
select.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you want to be considered to come and be our co-host, you're going to have to email community@batchservices.com.
Oh,
And
whoops. Batch service. I was about to say, I don't want you guys to have I probably typed that wrong.
all good. Let's do it one more time.
There we go. Natasha, just without the S. Sorry for the typo, but just batchservice.com.
Community@batchservice.com. It's up on the screen right now, guys. Community@batchservice.com. Now, guys, don't leave yet, quite yet. We are at the end of our time, but I just released a video on this channel, so please don't leave. Okay, all 120 of you guys right now, watch the video that I just premiered right now on my YouTube channel. Don't go anywhere. Watch the video first. It's a To the Moon episode you're going to want to watch and get super inspired before you get back to your day. Landree and I are going to see you guys back here November 30th, where we're going to be calling creative deals, and we're going to be bringing up one of you to be our co-host. Until then, Landree Morby and I are taking it batch to basics, and we'll see you guys back here November 30th.
Thanks, guys.
Now, don't go away. Make sure you watch that next video. Later.